Hello, welcome to Behind the Baton from the Eastern Music Festival. It's a great honor for me to welcome Neal Cary to a discussion. Let's first begin. I'm talking to you from Miami. Where are you, Neal?
Well, I'm in Richmond, Virginia. I play principal in the Richmond Symphony and teach at the College of William and Mary. And it's my great honor and pleasure to be principal cellist at Eastern Music Festival.
Well, what's interesting about your life to me, there's so many interesting things. You're such a great artist, such a great musician, a great teacher. In fact, my son's teacher, which makes me very proud that you taught him so much. But you have such longevity in all your positions. I think at Richmond since '88,
That's right.
College of William Mary '91. You
That's
first
right.
joined our faculty in 1984. It's just extraordinary when you became principal in '88. So let's go back to the beginning. Tell
Okay.
me about how you got involved with EMF at the beginning.
Oh, well, that's kind of an interesting story. At the time, actually, my very first audition for Eastern Music Festival, I didn't even get in as a faculty member. And that was when I was a student of Leonard Rose at Juilliard. And Leonard Rose and Sheldon Morgenstern, who was the music director at the time, had a very close relationship because Leonard Rose would always go there in the summer and play a concerto with the orchestra and do master classes and so forth. And so Shelley Morgenstern, and Leonard Rose would talk with one another, and Leonard Rose would pick his students or student to join the faculty that summer. And I was kind of new, and I wasn't the one picked, but I had heard about the audition, so I said, "Oh, I'm going to audition anyway." And so I showed up at the audition, and Shelley was surprised to see me, and he said, "Well, did Leonard Rose recommend you?" And I said, "Well, no." I said, "But I really would love to do the festival." And as it turned out, I mean, like the person had already been picked. So that was back in the days when, arrangements like that kind of took precedence over the audition actually, and the audition was more of a formality. At least it was at that time. And then a couple of years later, actually, after I had graduated Juilliard and was working in San Antonio as acting principal cellist, I auditioned again because they had an opening. And this was unfortunately after Leonard Rose had died. I believe he had died, but anyway, he had stopped going back to Eastern Music Festival at that time. And so I auditioned and I got into the section. And then that was in 1984, as you mentioned. And then they had an assistant opening. And so Shelley promoted me to assistant. And then there was a principal opening, and that was split between Diane Chaplin and myself, I think for at least one summer, perhaps two. Diane was a wonderful cellist. She's still around. I haven't seen her since the mid '80s. Marvelous cellist, wonderful, an interesting personality. Um, but we split that principal cello role, and then she decided to move on to other things, and then Shelley promoted me again to principal, and I've been there since 1988, as you said. So things
Remarkable.
have changed a lot.
What was it like back in what was it like back in '84 when you first came? Do you have any memories of those
Oh
first?
my gosh, I do. It was a totally different scene. The faculty, by and large, were college students, and the students were mostly, um, like first year college students or younger. And so it was a wild time because the faculty, they were all single for the most part. There were very few married faculty there.
Uh-oh, trouble.
And yeah, that's right. It was, like I say, it was a pretty wild time. And in fact, there's a story. This was before I came, but there was a story about a party thrown by the faculty, which got so wild. The police came and arrested, like half the faculty, and Shelley had to go down to the police station to bail everybody out so that they could play the Saturday night concert. So
Well, things have certainly changed since then.
things have changed, yeah.
Crazy times. Now, let's see, I'm trying to think. Jeff Moulter, our concertmaster, has been there for quite a long time. He came in after you, though, right, in the early 90s.
Well, in fact, he joined the faculty after me, but when I first came to Eastern Music Festival, I think he was a student. And he had a fellowship position, I think, before he left and went on and did other things. And then Shelley called me. I can't remember how long ago. It was so long ago. And we had a concertmaster opening. And he said, well, do you have any ideas? And I immediately said, Jeff Moulter. And he thought of Jeff as this little, kind of ornery student, never took him seriously. And he just couldn't believe that I would recommend Jeff. But I knew what I was doing, I think. And Jeff, of course, has been probably our longest serving concertmaster and an incredible musician. And I consider him a very close friend and someone that I've been associated with for over 30 years. So I have a very high opinion of Jeff and really like the guy.
Well, I'm sure happy I asked that question because I didn't know that you made the recommendation. So as time went on, what were the students like in the late 80s and the 90s and compared to how they are today? Is there a change in attitudes, a change in approach, or is that year by year or person by person?
I think there's a big change actually because I think in the early days of EMF, the students went there for a fun summer. There were, of course, really wonderful benefits, musical benefits from the experience, but the students went there by and large to have a fun time, and they did. They had a fun time. But I think over the years, the students have become a lot more professional, a lot more serious, and they want to really benefit musically from their experience at Eastern Music Festival. And I really regret not having gone to Eastern Music Festival when I was a student because I just think the program is phenomenal. The experience to the orchestral repertoire, the chamber music, and the faculty are just incredible. So I think it's a really phenomenal summer now, and I think it was good back then. But back in the 70s and 80s, of course I wasn't there in the 70s, but I don't think there were that many summer festivals. And as more festivals have popped up, we have become more serious as we have become more competitive. And I think the music world has benefited from the huge number of festivals out there, and I think the program that we offer at EMF has likewise improved and is at an extremely high level these days.
Well, you're a great orchestral player, you're a great soloist, you're a great chamber music player. At our festival, I always think of it as being really an orchestra festival. We have three orchestras and we do a lot of repertoire and all the kids participate in a very high level, the faculty, of course, as well. We also do a little chamber music. I'm a great lover, believer. That's how I started out, of course. Yet at EMF, the emphasis really is on orchestra. How can we balance that? And do we do a good job, or should we think about other things we can do?
Well, my personal opinion is that I think one of the wonderful things about EMF is that it is balanced. It has a balance. And when you look at the music profession, by and large, many people that do music full-time do so in symphony orchestras. Of course, there are a lot of college professors out there. There are fewer jobs in chamber music and still fewer as soloists. But just looking at my own life, the majority of my work comes from playing in the Richmond Symphony and teaching. And just this morning I recorded the Tchaikovsky First String Quartet with my quartet that I'm in the Richmond Symphony. So, and occasionally I play concertos. So I think that my personal experience is one that many musicians share, and there's something to be said about having that balance in your life because I just think it's rich. It's a very rich experience. I can't imagine giving anything up. I love teaching, and I love performing in an orchestra. I absolutely love it. To be surrounded by that rich orchestral sound, the color is just, I have always found it thrilling. Um, and certainly the chance to be a chamber musician and to solo with an orchestra, those are valuable experiences for the personal development of every musician.
Yeah.
And so I think that the experience of EMF is just great because we do offer that balance, and it is primarily orchestra as it should be.
Well, it's a great answer. Thank you so much. You know, when I look at the orchestra, of course, I agree with you. Being in front of that sound, you and I are very close to each other. We hear that same sound. It's so beautiful, so remarkable, such a miracle that we're sitting or standing there listening to these great artists play together. Um, so you're in that inner circle between the first and second violas and the cello. So we all know what the role of the concertmaster is. I've talked to Jeff on our EMF behind the baton, and he describes it very well. So what is the role of the inner circle solo cellist? Is that something you can articulate?
Well, I think the role is really complicated. It's multifaceted. I mean, anytime there's a solo in the orchestra part, the principal cellist plays it. But I think I've always had the philosophy that a good leader is one that doesn't have to be authoritative in their leadership. I've always tried to lead by example, and I've always tried to have a great camaraderie in the cello section. I respect my colleagues immeasurably. I mean, to have Julian Schwartz as my stand partner is one of the most amazing benefits to coming to EMF, to have such an incredible cellist musician. And although I did teach him for a summer, I certainly wasn't his last teacher. And he is gone on to be I think he's a world-class cellist. And the fact that I get to sit with him is just incredible.
Well, he feels the same way about sitting with you. You know that. He just adores it.
Well, I adore Julian, and he has such a beautiful wife, Marika. I really enjoy the chances I get to play chamber music with her. She's just phenomenal. But the depth of talent in our cello section at EMF is really remarkable. Everyone, I think, is committed to the festival in the cello section. So I really want to foster that. I don't want to, step on anyone's talent or make them feel like they're not appreciated. I don't consider myself the kind of leader that's very authoritarian, and I don't want to have to be that way because I think that kind of squashes people's what they bring to the table musically. And so I want to encourage everybody to give of themselves 100% or more, if that's possible. And I think we have that in the cello section. It's really wonderful. It has been my pleasure to sit with some really remarkable cellists at EMF. It's always been a thrill, and the friendships that I've formed at EMF are just so I treasure them.
Yeah, we love you. So you have a remarkable musical family. I know because I know everyone. But would you tell us about Kathy and Al and Emma? Would you give us a little Cary history of the Cary family?
Well, my wife is a wonderful a violinist, and I met her in the Richmond Symphony. And a few years back, I guess it's been some time now, a long time, there was an opening. She auditioned and got it. And so now she's been on the faculty at EMF. I don't know how long, actually. I don't know that I can remember. It's probably close to 20 years. My daughter, because I've gone to EMF every summer, I just can't imagine missing it, and I never thought I would. And this is the first summer that we've had to miss it for reasons beyond our control. But I've gone every summer, and that means that my two children, Emma, who plays the cello, and Alan, who plays the violin and piano, have come to EMF every summer. And so they've had wonderful friendships with children of other faculty at Easter Music Festival, and they have attended Easter Music Festival as students. And I see the benefit that they have gained from their experience at EMF. My daughter, I've seen this with my students. They come out of EMF. Um, it's hard to put a number on it, but it seems like they're twice as good as when they go in, because the experience they get out of at EMF from playing those 5 orchestra concerts. Usually, I think for many youth orchestras in the country, they might play 2 a year, maybe 3, but EMF does 5 in 5 weeks. I think that's phenomenal. And they get so much done, and they absorb so much information that they continue to learn throughout the year. And I have seen this in my own children. My son has gone to EMF twice as a violinist, and just recently, or over the last year, his main focus has switched to piano. And so he was going to come to EMF this summer as a pianist for the first time, and was really looking forward to that. But
a shame, yeah.
Yeah, but next summer.
Yeah, well, I know he's a wonderful violinist. I remember watching him last summer in the orchestra. I mean, he's, chip off the old block, except not chip off the young block.
Well, as you know, everyone has to find their instrument. And he is incredibly talented as a violinist. And, he has beautiful hands for playing the violin, just absolutely wonderful. But I think piano is his instrument. He has that connection with piano. My daughter has always had a connection with cello, and when she was little, we tried to start her off on the violin because, she was always coming into my studio and plucking the strings on my cello, and so we thought, well, we'll get her started on the violin. She was 3 or something, and she wasn't bad, but as soon as she was 5, we started her on the cello, and that was really her instrument. You kind of see it in students when they find their instrument.
And she's in college now.
Right, she's with Richard Aaron at University of Michigan.
University of Michigan.
Yeah, it's just blossoming. She's, I think the biggest change this year that I've seen is just huge advancements in her technique. Her technique is just incredible.
Well, Richard is one of the great teachers of technique.
Oh, absolutely.
I knew him, he was starting out in Seattle many years ago. Very gifted teacher, and Michigan is a wonderful place. Neal, this has just been a joy to talk to you, give some insights into your personal life and your connection. And you're probably, at this moment, would you say the longest serving member of the faculty?
I think maybe so. Yeah, maybe so.
Such a young man with so much energy too. So music keeps us all going in that way. Please send my love to Kathy and to the kids, and thank you so much. You're such a joy and such a treasure for us at EMF.
Well, thank you very much for your kind words, and best to you and Jody and your family.
Thanks so much. Take care.
All right.